How much is your network right now? Because I think Google has it wrong.
You can make a case that it's 300-400.
Esse é Iman Gadzhi, um jovem de 25 anos que conquistou um patrimônio bilionário enquanto documentava cada etapa desse processo em seu canal do YouTube. Hoje, ele comanda múltiplas empresas milionárias e se tornou uma referência em mindset, disciplina e liberdade para jovens do mundo inteiro.
Can you tell me how many businesses are you involved in? Maybe 15 companies?
I like the chaos. Maybe that's because of being the age that I am. I still have the energy for it.
E hoje eu fui convidado para passar o dia com ele aqui em Nova York e acompanhar de perto os bastidores de um dos momentos mais importantes da sua carreira. E detalhe, eu fui o único criador de conteúdo presente nesse evento. Nenhuma câmera além da minha e as do próprio Iman registrou o que você está prestes a ter acesso. Mas além de mostrar os bastidores desse momento histórico, eu vou descobrir o que está por trás de tanto sucesso com tão pouca idade e ir atrás de conselhos valiosos para quem deseja ter sucesso como ele.
And what would you say for someone in Brazil right now? What would be your advice?
Everyone in Brazil should be looking to do business outside of Brazil because obviously when you're earning in US dollars, you're a king.
How many views for you to go visit Brazil?
1.5 million in 60 days.
Done deal. Thank you so much for meeting and accepting to do this video.
My pleasure.
A lot of people in Brazil, they've heard about you, but they don't know exactly your story. So I wanted to know from you, how was your upbringing?
I mean, it's a pretty typical story, to be honest. Single mom, born and raised in Russia, moved to London when I was 4 years old, and yeah, I mean, a pretty normal childhood until I was about 9 or 10. Then things between my mom and my stepdad got a little shaky, and yeah, by the time that I was about 11, 12 years old, we were back to where we started, just single mom, and sometimes when you're young, you feel that financial pressure and you feel that financial burden and you start to realize very quickly, okay, I'm going to have to start contributing and I'm going to have to start pulling some weight, maybe a little earlier than I would want to. Then that brings you to the golden question of, how do I make money?
Mas antes de explicar como ele fatura milhões de dólares, vamos entender como ele chegou até aqui.
Talk a lot about past traumas, right? I've heard this in a podcast. How important that was for you, working on your past trauma, and how you did it?
I don't know. I think anyone that's exceptional, usually there's trauma there, and fundamentally I think usually they're broken people. And I don't think that's a bad thing. To have extraordinary results, usually you need extraordinary drive, and that drive has to come from somewhere. Maybe your dad was super tough on you. You never felt like you were enough. Or maybe, you were on the streets. Wherever you are on that spectrum, it doesn't matter. The point is, there's something that happens in your childhood where you get very comfortable with being uncomfortable. You just have to grow up quicker than the average person. The thing I was most lucky about was the fact that I never looked left or right, I never compared myself. And I think that's why I stuck at it for so long. Even YouTube, uploading on YouTube, I was never worried about my subscriber count because I wasn't comparing myself to anyone else. I wasn't worried about, it's crazy. These days you get kids who are 17 and they're I'm only making $2,000 a month online. And I'm what world are we living in where now it's everyone's so pressured to be a multimillionaire so early and so quickly. I think because I put pressure on myself to become better, but I wasn't comparing myself to anyone else because I knew whatever anyone else was accomplishing wasn't. In year one, you can look like you're on top, and then year 10, another person's totally overtaking you. So I just don't, everyone's at a different stage of their journey, and I think that was one of probably my biggest superpowers when I look at what everyone's going through these days, is everyone's just they just compare themselves. And a lot of times they count themselves out of the race before they even start.
And on that note, that there's probably a lot of young people that look up to you and they compare themselves.
Yeah.
What would you tell them, in a way, to try to help? And
go look back at my old YouTube videos. That's why I keep them up. I could very easily private all those old videos, but I keep them up because I want people, if they're ever feeling fuck, I'm behind, or I'm not good at this, or I'm not where I want to be at, go look at my YouTube, and you'll see from year to year as I evolve and as I take this journey, how I get better and I improve and I reach that next level in my career, and it's a process.
And what would you say for someone in Brazil right now that they don't have the right environment, they want to succeed in life, but they say that they don't have a good networking? What would be your advice?
Online is your network. I love Brazil. Because you guys have some of the most hardworking, most talented people on earth. Honestly, I have some of my best team members from Brazil. That work ethic, I can see it. I'll be honest, some companies I have to, but a lot of companies I avoid hiring certain countries in the West because they're a bit entitled. And they just don't have that same work ethic and that same hunger. And I find Brazilian people have that work ethic and hunger. Everyone in Brazil should be looking to do business outside of Brazil. Because when you're earning in US dollars, you're a king.
Yeah,
so
money goes a long way in Brazil. How much is your network right now? Because I think Google has it wrong.
It's above 100. It's above 100. You can make a case that it's 300-400. It really depends. Most of someone's net worth comes from their businesses. And obviously you guys are, I'm going to take you to Whop offices, one of my companies now, made a very substantial investment into that business and have a sizable stake in the company. So that's another example, like what's that company worth? Right. The last round was at 800 million, but
That's what we're going to see here soon?
Yeah, so it's been a year and a half I've been deciding which company I make my major investment in, getting heads of terms from all the different businesses, deciding which company I think is going to be the $100 billion business. And Whop is just, I've never seen anything like it in my life. And we first started discussions 9 months ago. And then, finally wrapped up the deal about 6 weeks ago, signed off on everything, sent the wire, had the shares issued. Today we got a billboard going up. My hope is that not too many people take photos or post it online. We're still trying to keep it a secret.
Esse outdoor, no meio da Times Square, faz parte da ação de marketing para anunciar a entrada do Iman como um dos principais sócios da Whop, a empresa que você vai conhecer daqui a pouco. Agora, você deve estar se perguntando como que eu fui o primeiro canal brasileiro a entrevistar o Iman Gadzhi. Bom, deixa eu te explicar. Para pra pensar no que acabou de acontecer aqui. Não era para eu estar aqui. Existem pessoas muito mais qualificadas, ricas, influentes, que gostariam de estar aqui e não conseguiam. Isso porque eu aprendi a criar portas onde para a maioria nem existia. A me mover nos bastidores, sem gritar, sendo útil de uma forma estratégica. Mesmo antes de qualquer validação ou resultado concreto. Tem gente que passa a vida esperando ser chamado. Eu decidi aprender a me posicionar e não esperar mais. Enquanto você assiste isso, tem convite rolando, oportunidades acontecendo para quem tá no jogo certo. E se você não fizer esse movimento agora, alguém pode ocupar o espaço que era para ser seu. O treinamento Unlock, o poder das conexões, está com vagas abertas por tempo limitado. E se você chegou até aqui, você entendeu que não é só assistir um vídeo no YouTube. É sobre aprender a mudar de ambientes de maneira estratégica e saber se posicionar. E o primeiro passo é seu. A oportunidade está aqui agora com 3 super bônus para quem decidir agir. Então clique no link da descrição, leia o QR Code e bora mudar o jogo da sua vida hoje. Ou deixa pra lá e continue sendo um anônimo e não tirando proveito do poder das conexões.
So excited for the day to begin, and I hate when the day ends. I hate going to sleep because there's so many things I want to learn, there's so many books I want to read, there's so many places I want to go. So many people I want to help, there's so many experiences I want to have, there's so much work I want to do, and there's so many opportunities that I want to seize. So
This is like 9 years ago. How do you feel watching this video?
You miss it. It's like those are like the good old days. You know what I mean? And I think that's why I think it's important that no matter where you are in life, whatever stage you're at, I know everyone's trying to always think like, what's the next step and where am I going to be in a year or 3 years or 5 years? I think it's so important to just like cherish every moment, because like looking back at that, I'm like, oh man, those were like, honestly, I look back at those times and I'm like, fuck, those were the good old days. I knew I would get here 100%. I just didn't think it would be this fast. But then again, also 9-10 years ago, there weren't the same opportunities there are now. Like, listen, there was a lot of opportunity 9-10 years ago, and I'm always self-aware enough to understand that even, for example, 10 years ago, if I was 10 years older, I don't think I would have accomplished as much as I had, because I wouldn't have had the opportunities. Like, that video is in 2015. If I was trying to start building my business in 2005, I don't think I would have been able to do it as quick as I can. But it's funny, because now looking in 2025, I think if I'd started now, I would have done it even in half the time. So I think there's just, as time goes on, there's always just more and more opportunity, and, the playing field gets leveled. Even just small things, like back then, even just getting like payment processing was tough. Back in 2015, getting payment processing, especially under the age of 18, there's more roadblocks back then than there are now.
I've heard you saying in an interview, I think it was with Jordan Welch, that the best time that you had was when you were making $10,000 to $30,000 a month. Can you elaborate on that?
I tell people this all the time. There is a sweet spot in terms of how much work you're putting in versus how much you're earning. And what I mean by that is, well, first things first, the first time you start making 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand a month, like that first bit of any part of anyone's journey where they start getting success, like you never get that back. Like that first time you go on a really nice holiday, that first time you treat someone important to you, that first time you get that thing you've always had on your poster board or your vision board, like that, those first inklings of success, like that, nothing ever comes close to it. But then on the flip side, I think there is a sweet spot in terms of how much money you make, where past a certain point, it usually comes with way more responsibility, and that responsibility weighs you down. That's why, like, I was smiling when I was watching that video, because now knowing, waking up, all the responsibilities that I have compared to back then, that's why I almost look and I'm like, those are the good old days, because you just wake up and you're like, wow, like I don't have things holding me down. And sometimes, I'm on that path, and my goal with YouTube now is to document all the way to 1 billion, and that's just a personal journey that I'm going through, and that's I love the chaos and I love the thrill of all this. But for most people, it's too much stress and it's too much headache, and sometimes you can push things too far where it's not, that extra money you make isn't worth everything you sacrifice.
A conversa aqui tá boa, mas fica ligado porque a melhor parte desse vídeo tá no final.
What is the biggest sacrifice you have right now, like with how much money you're making?
Headspace. It's the headspace, and it's the peace of mind, and it's the same thing. Like, imagine every single time you went for a run, it was flat out and it was intense, and you're in zone 5 and it's like you're constantly pushing. You probably wouldn't enjoy running that much. Sometimes it's nicer just to run, maybe a little slower, but you can enjoy the view, and you can run longer. And it's the same thing with work. Like when you have more responsibilities and you're always pushing flat out, sometimes you lose those moments to kind of slow down and enjoy life around you and whatnot. But as I said, that's a very personal decision. Everyone needs to, there is no right or wrong answer. That's why I also don't like this thing where I see online where someone's like, oh, they make this much and this person makes this much, so this person must be more successful. To me, success is defining what your dream life is. Like, what outcome do you want? And the closer you can get to that outcome, the more successful you are. I'm as close as humanly can be to what life I want for this stage of my career. So for me, in my mind, I'm successful, and it's not about the money, it's not about the companies, it's not about the revenue figures, it's not about any of that. It's about, this is what I want for my life right now, which is the chaos of being in New York, making ridiculous, massive investments we're going to see the Whop offices later, obviously. Yeah, being in a position I am, become a co-owner in $1 billion company, I never thought, I'd be in this position. So that's my definition of success right now. Like, I like the chaos. And maybe that's because of being the age that I am. I still have the energy for it, but I don't think that needs to be everyone else's definition of success.
A quick timeline for people that doesn't really know your journey on business, where you come from as a business perspective.
A lot of stuff in my life, I don't want to pretend like I'm some genius and that like everything was planned out. Like, sometimes you're right place, right time, and only makes sense looking back. So I started this one Instagram account called Fuck the Norm, FCUK, like aka fuck the norm. And I just started posting like my thoughts. It's still up on Instagram, by the way. And I just started posting, like, it was almost like diary entries with like a motivational post, like a written post. And then I did that for some time, and when I was growing the account, and then I started receiving messages of people being like, oh, can I buy promotions? This is like back in 2014. Can I buy promotions? I had a couple people reach out and they're like, can I buy your account? And like, I didn't know that this was a thing. So then I ended up getting thrown into some Telegram groups where people were buying and selling promotions, buying and selling accounts. This is like back when influencer marketing was massive in 2014. Started selling some promotions, made some money, started buying some accounts, started rebranding the accounts. Did that for about 6 months, a year. And then from there, I thought, okay, let me focus on school. My mom was...
And you're 14 years old, just to...
Yeah, I was 14 at that point. And yeah, I was like, okay, let me focus on school. My mom was crying all the time, very upset, because I definitely wasn't the best kid in school. Then I started getting really into personal training and like fitness and stuff like that. So then I was just trying to convince all my friends' parents to let me PT them. I'm like, listen, your personal trainer is charging you $80 an hour, and they're looking at their phone. I'll charge you $20 an hour, and like, I'm gonna go above and beyond for you and do all this other stuff, and create diet plans and training plans and yada yada, etc. And that's what I did. I started personal training my friends' parents.
15 years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I was trying to convince other people in the gym to let me PT them and all this stuff. It was interesting times, and that kind of led me to, I was watching a lot of like the fitness influencers back then. Bought a camera, started uploading on YouTube, started practicing my craft, learning how to video better. And then I started getting some people messaging me like, hey, can you take photos, videos for me? And just, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, like just small little jobs, until eventually I got the first client that was like, oh, can you do this monthly, like as an ongoing thing. And, back then I didn't think, oh, I'm starting an agency. Like, I didn't think I was even starting a business. I was just like, I have spent some time to learn how to do a skill. That skill people want to pay me for. So I'll just provide a service in return for payment. Like, it was really just as simple as that. Once you get that first little bite of success, then, then you start to take it more seriously and you start sending out proposals and this and that. And yeah, it was about 7 months from the point in which I got my first client to my second client. It was a snowball from there. Now in 2025, it's cool, it's accepted. Like, oh, I have an online business, I've got an online side gig, I'm reading books, I'm meditating. Like, all that stuff is cool now, whereas like 10 years ago, you gotta remember that it wasn't considered cool. Like, it was a weird thing to do.
How would you think it would be your journey and your results if you didn't have start uploading this diary?
I'm not gonna sit here and lie. Having a personal brand was a massive advantage, but it wasn't an advantage until I made it an advantage. And I think that's the other thing as well, is up until really 2022, I didn't care about it. In fact, at the end of 2021, I was going to shut down all my social media. And I even told my business partners at one of my software companies, because I was just like, I'd been uploading from 2015 to 2022. I was like, I think I'm just kind of done with this. But I was also kind of half-assing it. Like, I wasn't giving it everything, or I didn't treat it like a business, the social media stuff. And it was only once I was like, okay, cool, let me apply the same processes and systems I have in the business to the social media, that, obviously in 2022, things just skyrocketed.
Oh, we're here? Okay, cool.
We are getting my first ever iced out chain.
Oh, wow. I want to see that.
That's
gonna be interesting. Chegamos em uma das joalherias mais famosas de Nova York, a Mose Joalheria, para realizar a segunda ação de marketing do dia. Buscar uma corrente de diamantes com a logo da empresa nova do Iman e gravar um vídeo com o próprio Moses, que atende clientes famosos como Floyd Mayweather, Mike Tyson e Alex Poitin.
Did your logo to perfection. I put big diamonds to match the big diamonds in the chain hotel. Check the joy. Thank you, bro. What's up, my brother? Enjoy.
I appreciate it.
Only success in good things. Hello, guys.
Na hora de pagar, o Moses propôs uma brincadeira que é muito conhecida nos vídeos dele, onde se o cliente aceita, ele joga uma moeda pro alto, onde se der cara, a pessoa paga mais, e se der coroa, paga metade ou às vezes não paga nada, que foi a proposta que ele fez pro Iman, o dobro ou nada. E é claro que o Iman topou.
20K or nothing, let's fucking get it. Give me the khamsa, player. With discount.
I love you. Salute.
Cheers.
Eu fui 3 shots de tequila. Eu tô ficando um pouco bêbado aqui, ainda a gente tem o dia inteiro pela frente. Vai dar bom, vai dar bom. What's your favorite food? Your favorite dessert, I mean.
Brigadeiro. It's my favorite.
Really? Yeah. Have you tried the pound de queijo?
What?
Have you tried pound de queijo?
Yes. Yeah.
Like that one?
I do, but nothing beats Brigadeiro for me.
Brigadeiro?
Yeah, you guys have good food.
How many views for you to go visit Brazil?
Well, you get 500,000 normally, right?
I mean, yeah, there's videos that I get like 1, 2 million too. But like, if you get the average, it's 500.
What do you think?
I think 1 million like in let's say 45 days.
Okay, 1.5 million in 45 days?
60 days. 60.
1.5 million in 60 days, I'll come to Brazil.
Perfect. All right, that's done deal.
Agora estamos indo para a sede da Whop, onde o Iman vai ser apresentado como novo sócio na frente de toda a empresa. Por isso, deixa eu te explicar antes, de forma simples, o que a Whop faz. Ela é uma plataforma onde qualquer pessoa pode criar comunidades pagas ou vender materiais digitais, com a diferença de possuir uma ferramenta que permite usuários receberem por visualização.
This is pretty much like open floor space. We've got around like 80 full-time employees here, and all of these rows, like these pods, is all just like engineers, people working full-time.
What made you invest in Whop right now?
Myself, I had an agency, I was doing 6 figures a month, and if you look over in that room there, Dylan used to do copywriting for some of the largest offers. This Eddie and Malcolm used to be entrepreneurs themselves. The best way to make the best product in the world is to use it yourself.
To use it, yeah. That's awesome, really.
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
really. I can understand why you choose.
I think that says a lot about culture as well. You know, there's certain individuals, I'm not joking, there's literally multiple individuals I'm looking at right now, we're making millions of dollars a year in their own businesses that dropped all of that to come work at Whop. Because of the culture, because of what you experience, you know, in this office and in this company. So I think that actually says a lot.
It's funny, there's a building just next door. About 9 of us live there. So anyone that's working here, if they live nearby, they get $750 per month towards rent.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we want to incentivize like people being here. And so even, for example, from 9 till 5 p.m., you get $25 in Uber Eats credits. If you stay past 6 p.m., you get another $25. And then if you stay till 9 p.m., you get a free Uber home. So we just want to try and give as many resources as possible so people can just laser in on the mission and crush it.
How would you like to be known when you leave this world?
Generally, or by my loved ones?
Generally, and then by loved ones.
Generally, to be honest, I don't really care. Like, I really don't care because I just feel like I know what people see publicly, I know what people see privately, and sometimes, honestly, the people who get the most hate publicly are the best people privately, and sometimes the people who get the most praise publicly, I know behind the scenes are the worst people. So I just, quite frankly, by the people I don't know, I don't really care.
Okay. And the loved ones?
Loved ones, someone who showed their love in the way that they were best at showing their love. And for me, that's, protection and steering the ship. And for me, it's always important to put myself in a really difficult situation. So then that way I can kind of guide all the people around me. My friends and my loved ones know if you want, someone to speak to for 3 hours about any random stuff, I'm not your person. But when push comes to shove and you have the worst day of your entire life and you just need someone to make it known that you're safe, you're protected, things are fine. Like, I'm that person that people go to. And honestly, I think I'm a natural born leader. The people around me know that, that's the way I show my love, and, they feel loved because of that. I'm happy. If they think positively of me, then great. If they don't, I mean, that's not really any of my concern.
As far as loved ones, you bought your mom a pretty cool house. Mm-hmm. And would you say that was the best money that you ever spent?
I mean, listen, to be honest, like, spending that amount of money on a house, it's not necessary. If you can compare that amount of money spent on that compared to, like, just those early days of, like, for example, my mom had never been to Paris. And, like, living in London, like, never going to Paris in your entire life, like, that's a pretty big thing. We just didn't really travel growing up. Small things like that. When I was 17 and I first started making money, and I was like, I was promised my mom would take her to Paris, and being able to do that, that was, like, almost in a way, like, almost a bigger, felt like a bigger accomplishment than the house, because at the house at that point, it's like, it was a nice, like, cherry on top. But it's just, it's always those early moments that I cherish so much, and I look back and I'm like, because you never get that feeling again.
And you talk about a lot about financial freedom. Do you feel like you're free financially right now, or is there something that you want to buy and you can't yet? Yeah,
I think, listen, I'm at a stage of my career where obviously, like, there's nothing, like, just being entirely honest, like, hypercars, the amount I've made in a week, I could have bought a hypercar many times. I'm just not, I think sometimes people have this idea of me, like, just because I have nice things, like, I'm materialistic. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with having nice things. Like, if you have nice things and it fits within your budget, like, my spending budget compared to what I make, like, my investing and saving budget is very small. And I don't feel guilty about, like, if I like something, I'll buy it, and I just like what I like. But these days, the things that I buy are obviously, like, quite more expensive than, like, a Bugatti or a LaFerrari or this, like, to me those are small items now. Like, I don't look at those things and think, like, wow, I'm so rich. Like, for me, I look at things like being able to buy assets, whether that's, and all, and honestly, I don't really talk about that stuff publicly because I just think, the best things in your life, you don't need to show off. So yeah, I guess I'm just in a different stage of mind. There's no car on earth that could give me any feeling of excitement or this, like, it's just, I like what I like. A lot of times I like weird small things, like my 50-year-old Mini Cooper I drive in Dubai.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Like, you just find the things that make you smile.
After you hit the 10 mil at 21, did you have, like, a time where you'd be like, okay, let me try to retire, let me try to don't do anything?
I felt that. I vividly remember. That's why I don't do it anymore. I vividly remember. I was like, wow, cool. Like, I'm set. I started looking. It's funny. I started looking at farms in Argentina, and I was like, yeah, cool farms in Argentina, like a countryside house in the UK. I was like, where am I going to do my life? Like, yeah, and I think that life works for some people, but I just know that deep down that doesn't really make me happy.
And talking about business, you didn't answer me earlier. Can you tell me, like, how many businesses are you involved in, and, like, you can only tell, like, the majors one if you can, of course.
Yeah, I mean, listen, companies that I'm, like, a significant co-owner, like a stakeholder, either I own personally, I have a co-founder with, maybe 15 companies.
15?
Yeah.
How do you manage to, of course, you're not, like, on the daily basis there, but
you need an operator. And that's why, like, I'll be honest, there's even, for example, one of my companies right now, which I'm trying to sell, because I realized that I just bit off more than I could chew. And me and my co-founder were not operators, as in, like, we just don't have the bandwidth for that right now. And in that industry, the amount that we would have to put in and the difficulty of that industry, it's like, the business has done well. The business has done well, but it's not, you have to give that business 110% or nothing. And we don't
don't have the bandwidth to give it 110% or nothing. But all my other companies, I have operators. Like, for example, you've sat with some of my operators here, and you can tell, like, these guys, like, honestly, there's stuff that goes on in my company, and people are like, so what did this happen? I'm like, I don't know. And I'm not saying, like, I don't know because, like, I have such good people to take care of that. So even at, like, the eyewear business, I hired an operator, like, incredible CEO from Germany that I poached from German incredible consulting firm. So she's now in the Madrid offices. So like with any company, and that's also, I guess this may be interesting, I've never revealed this publicly, but now I like to take anywhere from, on the low end, like 5 to 30% of a company. I don't want to start a new company ever again. I never say never, but I'm not interested in starting new companies. I'm not interested in 50-50 partnerships in companies. I have my pre-existing businesses, and I would rather just take a smaller stake in other businesses and provide value where I can. Like basically this year I'm revealing one company per month that I hold a significant stake in. And last month was a company called Lira. It's a software business. We just got accepted into YC. So yeah, that business, obviously without going into specifics, like that business I invested in, I'm the largest investor in that, invested 4 or 5 months ago. Obviously just got accepted into YC, got incredible terms. When I did come into the business, invest in the business, and now that business, I pulled a couple strings to help that business along, but I'm not, like when they change CRM, I'm not, like, if there's a decision that they want my opinion on, then yeah, sure, they'll ask, but even if I don't respond, like they're still gonna go and do their own thing. And that's where I'm valuable at this stage. Now, some people are really like that beginning stage of starting a business. But then once the business is, running well, they don't like the 3% improvements, the 5% improvements. Like they don't like that incremental, slow scaling part. Whereas I love that. Like I love that part because I come in and there's so many, like I wish there was things that I could say like about different businesses where I've come in and like I've increased bottom line by 5 to 10%. Like in the first week, I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this, and then that totally transformed the company. Whereas for me, I actually hate the beginning parts of a company because I know how difficult it is to get it off the ground. Like a business is basically just like flying a plane. Like you take up most of the fuel actually getting the plane off, up into the air. Yes. Once it's in the air, it's just kind of sipping fuel. I've been doing this for 10 years now. I'm not as excited about that early beginning stage of business because I know that the truth is. Any of the sort of business that I'm starting right now with higher potential, or at least, the business I'm getting involved in with higher potential, they're also a lot more likely to fail. So I don't really want to get into that stage where a business could fail.
Do you feel like you skipped an important moment of your life by trying to get rich?
I didn't really have like traditional teenage years, so I think that's one thing I did miss out on, but that's also why I make it a point now. Like I really enjoy my life. Like I work hard, I party super hard, I travel. Like I know I could make a lot more money if all I did was work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and that's all I did. But like, I don't know, would I look back and think like I had a super rich life? That's just for me. Now I know for some people, all they want to do is work. I'm one of those people where I'm very intense. Like 8 months a year, all I do is work. I'm not joking. Like it's just 12, 14-hour days, 7 days a week. I don't take weekends. And that's not me, like I'm not trying to like say I'm this incredible hard work, like it's effortless. Like that's not me trying. That's generally, it's just my interest. That's all I'm really interested in. And there's about 3-4 months a year where work becomes my third priority. Of course, I'm still gonna manage all my responsibilities and do everything, but I'm not gonna like, enjoying my life actually becomes my number one first priority. So I'm super intense. Like I party super hard. And when I say party, I mean like party, travel, explore, like, and all, like just everything, just
like rest, like rest in general.
No, rest is the one thing I don't do.
Oh, you don't rest? Even like, when you're like enjoying?
No, like relaxing, and it's not like I said, I want to make it clear when I say this stuff, it's not in a good way. Like I'm not saying this is a good thing. Because like a lot of people are like, I never rest and all I do is work, and they're saying it like to show off. Like I want to make it clear, I'm really not trying to like
you just can't
say it in a positive way. It's just I don't know how to. I don't know, maybe in 10 years it might be different, 20 years it might be different, but I just don't have an off button right now. I don't know how to relax.
About the monk mode. Monk mode. I wanted to know how you came up with this concept. From what I've seen, it was not on purpose. It was just something you usually do, and then you taught people, and then they come up with this name. Because in Brazil they replicate that. I don't know if you know. The cave mode. They say like it's like modo caverna. They say it. So like a cave mode. But yeah, how do you come up with that? It's just something that let me try it and work out?
It was, funny enough, it was Cape Town in January of 2021, and it was lockdown in the UK, and every winter I go to Cape Town anyways. I had a house there for a few years, so yeah, I just posted one day on my story like, for the next 60 days, I'm going into monk mode, don't call me, this is my protocol, and then people just started using the word, and then I started like formalizing it, and then I just use it as a tool. I just use it as a tool, as a commitment, and I found it was so interesting. Like people around me, like my friends were like, oh, are you in monk mode? Like, and they would understand it, like, oh, no, he's in monk mode right now. Like almost as like an understanding, like, oh, he's in that zone. like leave him alone. Like he's in that zone. Like he's, oh, okay, cool. I know you're a monk mode right now, so like I'm not gonna invite you to this thing. Like so, it just kind of became a thing from there, to be honest.
You personally helped me because the monk mode helped me a lot. I did on my own terms, of course. Yeah, you just like gave the examples, but that helped me a lot. And I'm sure like a lot of people as well.
E antes de ir para a melhor parte da entrevista, eu não poderia esquecer de adicionar o contato do Iman no telefone do network. Porque se você ainda não sabe, eu tô na missão de construir o maior networking do Brasil. E a conclusão disso vai ser quando eu chegar no Cristiano Ronaldo e conseguir gravar um vídeo com ele.
E você até pode achar isso impossível de acontecer, mas pra mim, alguns anos atrás, tá aqui, gravando com o Iman, também era impossível.
Mas graças às técnicas de networking que eu desenvolvi e usei para chegar até aqui, eu sei que é só uma questão de tempo até eu conseguir. E se você quiser aprender as mesmas técnicas que eu usei para aplicar na sua realidade, clica aqui no link que vai estar embaixo do vídeo ou no QR Code da tela. Agora, de volta para nossa conversa.
When you're about to accomplish something, you're the type of person that holds for yourself until you actually do it, or you?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, everything, like
Everything.
even close friends, like.
Even
family.
close friends. No, I mean, like, listen, for example, like Whop, like we started conversations in August, which is what, 9 months ago? Didn't tell a soul.
Not even like family, close.
You know what it is for me? I just don't like celebrating until the job's done. And until, like, even like I remember when I sent the wire and like some of my loved ones were like, oh, like trying to celebrate. I'm like, shares haven't been issued. Shares haven't been issued. Like, I know it's done, everything, contracts are signed, wire's been sent, all this stuff. Or like when I signed the contract, they're like, I haven't sent the wire. Once I send the wire, different story. Wire is sent, shares haven't been issued. So for me, I've just, I think sometimes it's just a lot of people celebrate too quickly their wins, and then their wins that aren't wins yet become real to them, and they become so addicted to these wins they've made up in their mind, like, oh, my company's worth X amount. That's why, like, for example, when someone asks me the net worth thing, I get a little like, I can't really tell you because I know what they're roughly worth, but it's very subjective. I also think people can't ruin what they don't know about, and I think that's why, like, we were talking about a couple things off camera, and there's just a couple things that I just will, like, honestly, the biggest blessings I have in my life, I will never share.
100%.
People can't ruin what they don't know about.
100%, I agree with you.
Some things you don't need to share.
Do you believe someone can achieve success with a balanced life?
Depends what your version of success is. Because maybe success for you is, I want to live a balanced life.
I mean, like financial success, as far as like making $1 million, let's say, starting from the bottom.
Making $1 million, or making $1 million a year, or making $1 million a month. Because
okay, I'm not giving you enough context. I mean, like starting from zero, you have to grind, you have to make like, $50K a month and then $100K a month until you start making like $1 million a year, let's say, like creating a company.
I think, listen, making $1 million a year, for sure you can live a balanced life. Not to get it off the ground, you might be unbalanced for some time, but $1 million a year, I think you really can live a balanced life and make $1 million a year.
After you achieve it.
Yeah, like I see a lot of people who honestly don't work that hard. I was one of those people. From like 2018 to 2022, I was just making anywhere in that period, obviously it grew year on year. Actually 2021, that was skewed, but that was because of crypto. Like crypto was the thing that really like fucking took me over 10 million in my investment portfolio, like locked in. But still, during that period from 2018 to 2022, I was making anywhere from like $1 million to $2.5 million a year profit in that scale. And honestly, I was probably giving life, like my work, a 7 out of 10 effort. Like I didn't go 10 out of 10. And I was also cool with that. I was like, because once again, I was self-aware. Even the first opportunity I had to start a software company was in 2018. And I literally said word for word, I just don't have the appetite for that right now. Like I know me and I don't have the hunger to execute on that. And it was only in the end of 2020 when I started my first software business, and I was like, I feel like I could take on a challenge like this. And yeah, all that to say that I think you can live a balanced life. It just depends at what extent. Now, if you want to have like ridiculous levels of success, financially that is, I don't think you can be balanced, no.
You know how much you make per month or year?
How much I make or how much I pay myself?
If you can, I would like to know both. But doesn't need to be exact numbers, of course.
As I said, it just gets so complicated because like in 1 year, you might have like a liquidity event. And a liquidity event is like you sell your stake in a business, or there's something big that happens in a business where all of a sudden you get like an injection of cash. Like you do really what, like even for example in the eyewear business, like a Black Friday, that's a liquidity event. Like there's these certain things that like skew. All I know is I pay myself guaranteed. Some years I kind of pay myself bonuses. I pay myself 10 million a year.
Do you know how much you have in your bank account right now?
Honestly, as I said, which one? Because listen, once again, it's very different if we're talking about like assets. Does bank account mean like actual cash, or does that include stock portfolio? Or
no, actual cash, not even.
Fuck, I mean, if we're talking actual cash, after this, it's a lot less. After the Whop wire, it's a lot less. I can tell you that. 8 figures.
How much you spend per month on your living costs, roughly?
Personal has to be between 300 to 400.
But that. Only like personal?
No, 300.
300, only personal, like personal, nothing business related?
No. My rule is anything I pay myself out in dividends, I have to spend 30% of that, so maybe 250 to 300 actually.
I know that I can't imagine any world where you'll be working a 9 to 5, but let's say like in this imagination, like what would you be doing if you were to work a 9 to 5?
Listen, if I was to work a 9 to 5, I'd just work with a company I really believe in, like Whop, for example.
Just a Whop.
Like I think you just join a company where everyone is super bought into mission. Like I work at one of my companies. Like I've had people, same thing in my companies. I've had people who make $1 million a year and they leave being an entrepreneur to be an entrepreneur and be an entrepreneur within my organizations because they're just like, they love the culture so much. So I think once you get to a certain level financially where you're like, I'm good, like it's not like nothing's really going to change that much if I make more money. Once you get to that level, you look for meaning in your work and you look for like working with people that just put a smile on your face. And a lot of times that means working in an organization. So, you know, it annoys me sometimes when I see people like shitting on 9 to 5 or like, I don't know, I just think that's a bit whack. Like, it's not the path I've gone down, but I would have no issues whatsoever working in an organization. Absolutely no issues.
You just pick one that there's like a good culture and, you know, you can really grow. And
as long as there's a good culture and you're learning, and that's usually with really good people, they just want to learn. And I've even noticed that in my companies, there's certain positions in my companies where someone's making more money, but they're more unhappy. They've had most of the personal development they can have in that company. They've really gone from here with their craft or their skill to like here. And there's, you know, they're kind of not evolving any further. And even though they might be making more money, they feel like unhappy. And that's really usually, you know, good talent is like that. People who really love what they do and love their work and take their work seriously, they want to constantly be challenged and push to the next level. It's not always about money.
What do you think is the hard truth about success that people don't want to hear?
It's a lot more random than people would want to admit to themselves. And what I mean by that is it's
luck.
Luck is a large portion of it. Now, I will say if you stick and you try for long enough, eventually luck will come into your favor. And I've even had it, you know, it's funny, I was telling the team, like there's, usually what will happen is there'll be 2 years where you're not lucky or unlucky. There'll be 1 year where you're really unlucky. And in the years where you're really unlucky, sometimes you have to know that you're in that phase and you have to not make your big moves. And then there's usually 1 year where you're super lucky and everything's going your way, and that's when you make your big moves. And all that to say that, you know, I could sit here and say that every single year I'm gonna accomplish all my goals and everything's going amazing and brilliant, but the truth is sometimes you have to learn, like everything in life is offense and defense. And sometimes you need to know when to just like play defense and like weather the storm. And some years you need to know, okay, cool, this is my fucking time and it's time to go for it. And you can't control those things. That's why I said random. Like sometimes life it's not always in your control. There's things you can do to the best of your abilities, and every single year I'm gonna show up to the best of my abilities and I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure that if luck is on my side, or you know, sometimes you just feel like the years you're just like, how is things are going my way? Like how is everything in my favor? And those years come about every once in a while, but if you're not prepared, those years are gonna do nothing for you. So you still have to be prepared and you still have to make sure you're doing everything you need to do, but just know there's certain years where you kind of have that like turbocharge. And when it's there, you have to make the most of it.
So now it's time to bed, or the work continue for you?
Yeah, we'll go head back to office, probably spend a few more hours working, and then call it a night.
It was a pleasure to record with you, Iman.
Oh my God,
and
appreciate you coming along.
Appreciate you. Anything you want to say for the Brazilian audience?
Love your country, love your people.
Brigadeiro.
Brigadeiro, I love Brigadeiro. Yeah, I'm excited to go out there. You know, that same energy you feel in the offices up there, in the Whop offices, that's like the energy I get when I'm working with like Brazilian people, like just that hunger, that drive. Always looking for people from Brazil to work at one of my companies. I'm just excited. I'm excited for my Brazil tour. Was it 1.5 million views?
I think it was 1.5, I think. I think so, yeah.
If we can get this to 1.5, in 2025, you'll see me in Brazil.
And we're gonna be shooting that, right?
Of course, 100%. Okay. We'll run it back, round 2.
All right, perfect.
By that time, I'll practice my Portuguese. Obrigado por assistir.